It's officially that time of year. It's time for positional rankings. These are honestly some of my favorite videos to make. I love making them, of course, and seeing your guys' opinions in the comments as well. And of course, as you know by now, we're going to be kicking the series off with the top 10 catchers. Now real quick before we get into the rankings, if you're new here and you enjoyed the rankings, feel free to subscribe. It really helps my channel out, as well as letting me know that you guys enjoy this type of content. But anyways, with that in mind, let's get right into this. Getting things started off, at number 10, I have Tyler Stevenson of the Cincinnati Reds. Stevenson is a really good catcher, and the only thing that I think is getting in his way at this point is his health. Last year, he only played in 50 games, but in those 50 games, he produced as he hit .319 to go along with 6 home runs, an .854 OPS, and a 1.5 WAR. He does struggle defensively behind the plate, as last year he had -3 defensive runs saved, so he does have some work to do behind the plate. But if he does stay healthy in 2023 and plays a full season, I could see him putting up some solid offensive numbers, and I could see him squeezing into the top 5 in terms of catchers. I'm a really big fan of Stevenson, and I have him coming in at number 10. Moving on, at number 9, I have Travis d'Arnaud of the Atlanta Braves. d'Arnaud is one of the best offensive catchers in baseball, and he's not so bad defensively either. Last year, he played in 107 games in which he hit .268 to go along with 18 home runs, 60 runs driven in, a .791 OPS, and a 2.9 WAR. And like I just said, he was solid defensively as well, as he had 6 defensive runs saved behind the plate, and he was named to the All-Star team last year. Every team in baseball could use a player like d'Arnaud behind the plate, a player who can hit 20 home runs and provide you with solid defense. d'Arnaud is definitely not an exciting player, but he's a good player, and I think he's a top 10 catcher at that. Getting on to number 8, we have one of the most surprising and fun players to watch in baseball in Cal Raleigh. Raleigh last year was elite for the Mariners. All in all, in 119 games, he hit .211 to go along with 27 home runs, 63 runs driven in, a .774 OPS, and a 3.8 WAR. It's not very often in baseball you see a catcher hitting close to 30 home runs, and that's exactly what Raleigh did last season. Oh, and on top of that, he was one of the best defensive catchers in baseball, as he had 14 defensive runs saved behind the plate. And if we're being honest, Raleigh was probably a top 5 catcher last season. And you're probably wondering why he's not in the top 5, and that's because I just need to see it for a little bit longer. But all in all, I think Raleigh's a really good catcher, and he's one of the most fun players to watch in baseball today, and I have him coming in at number 8. At number 7, I have Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals. It pains me to put him this low, but I just couldn't put him any higher after last season. In 114 games, Perez hit .254 to go along with 23 home runs, a .757 OPS, and a 2.7 WAR. Now those numbers may not seem all that bad, but when you look at the bad defense he displayed last year, he was just all in all not a very good catcher. He had -4 defensive runs saved behind the plate, and that's a lot different than the 5-time Gold Glover we're accustomed to seeing. But as bad as he was last year, I still do think he has a lot left in the tank. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see him bounce back and have a very productive season next year. So while he did fall off massively from his huge 2021 campaign, I still think he's a top 10 catcher in the league. Getting on to number 6, I have Willson Contreras of the St. Louis Cardinals. Contreras wasn't necessarily great last year, but he was still solid. In 113 games, he hit .243 to go along with 22 home runs, an .815 OPS, and a 3.9 WAR. Contreras is a 3-time All-Star for a reason. He's been one of the best catchers in baseball throughout his career, and while he didn't necessarily live up to standards last year, I think he's going to be very good in St. Louis. Now in terms of defense, he wasn't very good last year, as he had -1 defensive run saved, but overall throughout his career he has been pretty solid defensively, and I think he's going to bounce back and be a much better player next year. So with Contreras, you're really looking at 30 home run pop to go along with solid defense behind the plate, and I think that's worthy of the number 6 ranking. Getting into the top 5, at number 5, I have Sean Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. Murphy is a player who I've been a really big fan of throughout his career. Before the season last year, I was telling some of my buddies that I think Sean Murphy has 30 home run pop, and he also is really good defensively, and while he didn't hit 30 home runs, I still do think he has that potential. Last year with Oakland, in 148 games, Murphy hit .250 to go along with 18 home runs, a .759 OPS, and a 3.5 WAR. Now in terms of his defense, it wasn't great last year. In fact, it was pretty bad, but I think he's going to improve on that, as throughout his career he has been a pretty solid defensive catcher. And also going from quite literally the worst offense in baseball to one of the best in the Atlanta Braves, I think his numbers are going to improve drastically across the board. So Murphy is a really good catcher, and I have him coming in at number 5. Moving on, at number 4, I have Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. Kirk, in what was really his first full season last year, played very well, as in 139 games he hit .285 to go along with 14 home runs, a .786 OPS, and a 3.9 WAR. To go along with the solid offensive numbers, Kirk had a very good defensive season as he had 9 defensive runs saved. He was also named to the All-Star team, and I think there's going to be many more of those appearances for Kirk going forward. And I know some of you might be thinking that I said that Raleigh needs to prove more, and Kirk only did it for 1 year, so he should have to prove more as well, but I just think Kirk is a little bit more of an overall polished catcher, and I think he's just a little bit better. So Kirk is a really good catcher, but I don't think he's quite top 3 just yet. Getting into the top 3, at number 3, I have Will Smith of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, what is there not to like about Will Smith's game? He hits for a pretty solid average, hits home runs, drives in runs, and also gives you really good defense. Last year in 137 games, he hit .260 to go along with 24 home runs, 87 RBIs, an .802 OPS, and a 4.2 WAR. He also racked up 7 defensive runs saved behind the plate, so he's all in all one of the best overall catchers in the game today. Smith is one of the few catchers in the game today that I can confidently say has a legit shot at hitting 30 to 35 home runs and also driving in 100 plus runs. So Will Smith is a top 3 catcher in baseball. I really do think he flies under the radar being on the Dodgers, who are full of superstars, but I'm here to tell you Will Smith is one of the best catchers in the game today and is a very good baseball player. Getting on to number 2, I have Rushman of the Baltimore Orioles. I get it, he hasn't even been up for a full season, but this guy is special. Last year in 113 games, Rushman hit .254 to go along with 13 home runs, an .806 OPS, and a 5.2 WAR. Oh, and he's also the best defensive catcher in baseball as he had 18 defensive runs saved. If it weren't for Julio Rodriguez having a ridiculous rookie season, he would have won the Rookie of the Year as he finished second in the voting. But Rushman is one of the few reasons why the Orioles are actually relevant again. He has superstar written all over him. While I don't think he's the best catcher just yet, I think he's gonna be the best catcher in baseball for a very long time and for many years to come. And finally, getting on to the best catcher in baseball today, I have JT Realmuto of the Philadelphia Phillies. After what Realmuto did last season, I just couldn't go anywhere else. In 139 games, he hit .276 to go along with 22 home runs, 21 stolen bases, an .820 OPS, and a 6.5 WAR. He also is really good defensively as he had 11 defensive runs saved behind the plate and he won his second career Gold Glove. Realmuto is as polished as a catcher as you're going to find in the game today. He hits for average, hits home runs, drives in runs, steals bases, and is really good defensively. He's just the complete package behind the plate. While Rushman is on his heels, I don't think he's quite there just yet. I still think Realmuto is the best catcher in the game today. Alright, so there you have my top 10 catchers in baseball today. Let me know what you guys think down below, anything you agree with or disagree with. And as always, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching and continuing to support, and I'll see you next time.